Before we move on to proportions, let's do a quick review over rates and unit rates. A rate is a special type of ratio that compares numbers with different units. For instance, I can drive 360 miles on 12 gallons of gasoline. Our rate is comparing miles, or distance, to gallons, or capacity, two different units of measure. A unit rate is a special type of rate that compares a bunch of one thing to only one of another. My car can go 30 miles on 1 gallon of gasoline. Here we're comparing miles, which is distance, to gallons, which is capacity. So there's our two different units, but it's a unit rate because I'm comparing a bunch of one unit of measurement to only 1 gallon of gasoline, which is another unit. Suppose we came into a problem like this. Somebody was busy and they wrote 25 letters in 4 days. To write a rate, the first thing we're going to need to do is identify our labels. What is it that's being compared? Well, in our problem, we're comparing letters to the number of days. We all know we need to write our labels first, and since letters comes first in the question, we're going to use that on top and compare letters, the number of letters, to the number of days it took to write those letters. Let's grab some numbers from the problem. I'm going to do days first. So I'm going to look in the problem for my number of days. Well, there were 4 days. Since my label's on the bottom, that's where my 4 goes. The number of letters, let's see, 25, and that'll go on top since that's where my label tells me to put it. So my rate is 25 to 4, 25 letters in 4 days. The unit rate will ask me how many letters did I write in 1 day. So we're going to compare a bunch of letters to only 1 day. Now I'm going to look at this and say, okay, how did I get from 4 to 1? Well, I divided by 4, of course. And the golden rule of fractions tells us whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do the same thing to the numerator, so I'll divide that by 24 as well. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll divide that by 4 as well. So I'm going to say, okay, 25 divided by 4. I know that 4 goes into 25 6 full times with just 1 left over. So that gives me 6 1/4, or 6 25/100. So my unit rate is 6 25/100, 6 1/4 letters per, or for every 1 day. That's a lot of writing in my opinion. Better just send an email. Word problem like this can look a little intimidating, but it's the same process. When Denise bought gasoline, she paid $27.44 for 11 2/10 gallons. Find the price of gasoline per gallon. Well, step 1 is always find our labels. What is it that we're comparing? It tells me find the price of gasoline per gallon. Those are my labels. The price is going to be in dollars, so I'll just put a $, make life easy on myself, per gallon. Now I need some numbers. Well, how many dollars are in the problem? Well, she paid $27.44. Since that's where my label is, that's where my number goes. How about the number of gallons? Well, for $27.44, Denise got 11 2/10 gallons. Now they've asked me to find the price of gasoline per gallon. And the word per, we learned, means for every one of whatever unit they're talking about. So per gallon means for every 1 gallon, which means my 1 will go where my gallons are. Now I'll ask myself, how did I get from 11 2/10 to 1? Well, we divided by itself, of course. And the golden rule of fractions says whatever I do to the denominator, I have to do the same thing to the numerator. We'll divide that by 11 2/10 as well. So we have $27.44 divided by 11 2/10. We get $2.45. So for every 1 gallon of gasoline, Denise paid $2.45, or $2.45 per gallon. Now let's look at our better buy questions. And they want us to choose the better unit price. In other words, who has the best deal? We can spend $4.99 and get 6 cans of something, probably Diet Coke if I'm doing the shopping, or we can spend $7.99 to get 10 cans. We know that this is really two different problems that we have to solve and then compare. So to keep my work organized, I'm going to label this first one as problem A and the second one as problem B. First, I'll write my rate, and to do that, I need my labels, and I can see I'm comparing dollars to cans. That's true in both problems, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight, save myself a little bit of work a little later. Okay, for situation A, I'm comparing dollars to the number of cans I can get. Okay, let's see. I've got $4.99, and since my label for money is up top, that's where I'm going to put it. And for that, I can get 6 cans. Well, I want to know, how much would just 1 can cost me? We'll divide the denominator and numerator by 6 and see what we get. $4.99 divided by 6, and I get a really crazy number. I thought we were going shopping here. Well, we know that for money we only need to worry about the numbers up to the hundredths place, since that's what our money system is based on. And then the digit that's in the thousands place will tell me what to do with the rest of it. Is it going to stay at 83 or go up to 84 cents? Since the digit in the thousands place is below 5, I'm going to keep it at 83 cents. So for 1 can of Diet Coke, I'll pay 83 cents, or 83 cents per can. Now if you're really brave, you can press pause here and try to get your own unit rate for situation B. Click play when you have an answer and see if you came up with what I came up with. I need my labels, and I need my numbers. And since I want to know how much for 1 can, I will turn that rate into the 1. I'll divide top and bottom both by 10. I'm also going to use my little divide by 10 shortcut. Just move that decimal place over, move that decimal point over 1 spot, and I have 0.799. Here's my hundredths. Since the thousandths place is 5 or higher, I'm going to move that up to 83 cents. I'm sorry, to 80 cents. In situation B, I'm going to pay 80 cents for 1 can of Diet Coke, or 80 cents per can. Now we haven't answered the question yet, so we need to go back and make sure we do. It says to choose the better unit price. Since 80 cents is less than 83 cents, I would have to say that Situation B or store B is the better deal. I hope this cleared up any questions that you still have. If not, feel free to ask me in class about anything still confusing you. Thanks and have a great night.